Hello everyone, my name is Rylan Browner. I am a college football player for the University of Arizona and I hope to continue into the NFL. However, with the NFL lockout and the collective bargaining agreement right now, I'm interested in how my potential plans can change. With me now is 8-year veteran player Max Starks, the starting left tackle for the Pittsburgh Steelers and the 2-time winner, 3-time participant in the Super Bowl. He just so happens to be my brother. So how are you, big bro?
I'm doing good, Rylan. How about yourself?
I'm doing just fine. Alright, so a few questions about this. First question on everyone's mind is, how did the lockout start? I want to hear from the player's perspective.
Okay. Well, one of the things that I've been blessed to been a part of in my 7.5 years so far, the lockout actually started conspiring from the owner's perspective back in 2008 when they struck a deal with the television companies to restructure their deals and pretty much give them an advantage coming into this 2011-2012 season with the anticipation of getting paid roughly about $4 billion with the potential that there could be no football played. So they put this poison pill in the contract and forced the networks to agree to it so that they could, quote unquote, have a stockpile chest or war chest, so to speak, has been commonly coined, in the attempts that there isn't a season that they can still maintain and guarantee revenue for their respective clubs. And this kind of started in 2008, and then the following year they opted out of this year's collective bargaining agreement, which is why we're in a lockout state. So it kind of pretty much ensured that, there wouldn't be a season A without some type of court enforced mediation or intermediary to come in. So that's why, looking back on it, it started back in 2008, was almost pretty much secured in 2009 that there wasn't going to be an 11 season played on their behalf or their intention. And now we're here. As you saw, Judge Doty made the ruling that it was unconstitutional and unfair for the owners to negotiate a television contract without the players' interest in mind, because we gave the owners negotiation rights when negotiating deals, that they make sure that it's fair for both sides. And then, of course, we're now, fast forward here to where Judge Nelson has pretty much given us the okay to end the lockout, but then it was appealed to the 8th Circuit in St. Louis. And now, at this present time, we're awaiting a decision on whether or not we can proceed with the season, and they deemed the lockout unconstitutional or invalid on the grounds of that it's pretty much unfair and has no basis, or it could be that they rule in the favor of the owners and say that the lockout is still in place. They put a stay on the lockout to continue it and allow us to go through mediation to try and come to a compromise. So, that's really where we're at right now with this. As you saw, the history started back roughly 3.5 years ago and brought us to this point today.
Okay, so what will it take to make this collective bargaining agreement happen?
Well, one of the biggest things, earlier this year, in March, as you know, it was very highly publicized that we had meetings with the owners and the Players Trade Association to try and work out a deal. Of course, really wasn't serious, and the owners didn't really take it seriously at the beginning. But now we're at a point now where we're really actually negotiating the framework for a collective bargaining agreement currently. And you've seen in the news the last couple of weeks that we've been meeting in mediation secretly, and none of the details have been discussed. It's pretty much going to come to the owners and Players Trade Association coming to a joint agreement on a lot of different topics, such as long-term health care, player compensation. One of the things they want to enact is that rookie wage scale. They're still pushing 18 games, and really just making sure that the cap numbers are appropriate, because they want to have building fund access to be able to update stadiums, and legacy fund, which for you and I applies to our father and our uncles who played the game before us pre-1993, and to make sure that they have access to funds that can help them with healthcare and living costs that might be beyond their means, or might not be able to otherwise get insured or cover any type of important surgeries for them. I mean, we have a couple of different plans that are there, but this legacy fund would really kind of cement helping them with healthcare for the long term for all of the degenerative diseases that are onset after what we now have as a post-player benefit is a 5-year COBRA health insurance plan, which, as the studies that you've seen have come out with the concussion studies and long-term health studies, dementia, Alzheimer's, Hodgkin's, Lou Gehrig's, all these different diseases don't really take place until years 7, 10, 15, 20 years down the line, and you're uninsured. And one insurance company is going to insure a player that's had probably some injuries. Look at myself. I've had 4 surgeries. 3 on my knees, 1 on my neck. It's going to be tough to get insurance after my career's done, and they actually cover all of the things that are pre-existing before insurance coverage. And also, with the workman's comp is another issue that we're working on, trying to get more of a grasp on it, because it's not really a burden to our owners, but it's just something that they continually fight because the files have to be made, or the claims have to be made within the ball club, and they have to approve them. So there's just some small things that we still have to get worked out. I mean, we're working in the right direction, but it's still a ways away.
All right. So I heard that the NFL union was decertified. What are the implications of the union decertification?
The union decertification came, as we were talking about, early in March when the actual CBA was going to expire. And for us, decertifying would allow us to go to court to try and end this lockout. Because if not, had we have decertified after the deadline that was in place, after the extensions, if we decertified after that extension was lost, it would have taken us 6 months to decertify so that we can go into the courts and fight against this lockout, because we felt it was unlawful and unfair to the players to have this imposed upon us. So the decision was made right before the end of the extension deadline to decertify as a union and become a trade association, so that we could, get into court. I mean, it had been done similarly in previous years with the Reggie White settlement back in 1992, and which gave us the current CBA that we have today because of that decertification. And, the reason why you do that is because you want to make sure that we're not acting as a single entity going against another entity, and that you have the ability to take this into litigation and try and get it sorted out in the court system, because mediation was not working.
Okay, there are also some rumors going around that the NFL season will consist of either 8 or 18 games. Do you know anything else about this?
No, like I said earlier, the owners proposed it on the table with the last quote-unquote CBA framework that was sent out, was that it proposed an 18-game season. It was to cut out 2 preseason games and add on an additional 2 regular season games, strictly for the purpose of revenue, to generate revenue. You have your exhibition games, which are your preseason games, which really don't get as many fans there at the games because it's preseason. We're not going to see the starters playing that much, and it's pretty much just the younger guys and guys who are on the bubble trying to make teams. But our argument is that 16 games is a lot of games still.
Oh yeah.
You look at the general college schedule, it's 12 games, and then potentially if you're in a conference that has 12 plus teams, you have your championship game, and then you have a bowl game, which takes you up to 14. Well, for us, we're already 2 games above that, and we haven't even gotten out of the regular season. And you have 4 preseason games preceding that, plus you have a playoff system, which if you're not in a top 2 seed, you have potentially 4 games to go to win a Super Bowl. So now you're looking at 24 games within 1 year, almost a double college season already played. So imagine you add those 2 extra regular season games, which are going to be more intense than your preseason games, and really not allow young players, potentially like yourself, to develop in a preseason to learn a system from a professional ball club, to get the tape necessary that if you're not picked by that club to stay as a member of the team, that you have the ability to go elsewhere and sign and find a team that fits. And that's really what the preseason is about. It's about evaluating those younger guys that you want to keep or guys that you bring in free agency and see if they can make it on your team. Well, the evaluation process, you get a lot more accomplished with 4 games, and you get more thoroughness for going into the regular season versus just a 2-game system. And I think that's one of the biggest things that, that people kind of look over and say, 18 games, some people think it's great, some people don't. But that's one of the really things I think it hurts our younger players coming into this game, that they don't get the opportunity to develop or get an opportunity to shine. Because it's like pretty much if you mess up in 1 game, half of your chances have just been cut. Whereas you get 4 games, it's only a quarter. You can rebound back the second, third game and get in the coach's good graces or catch their eye with some video. And I think that's one of the biggest things. And then the second thing is that if you're going to extend the game by 2 seasons, the compensation should be added to that. So it shouldn't be split, whereas now it's 1/16, and now they want to say, we're playing 2 extra games, just give you the same salary and just cut it down. And, that's not fair because you have accelerated wear and tear on your body by going through that season. And, now the issue of longer-term health care is now in question by adding those 2 extra games. Are you going to add additional roster spaces for guys, to have on the active game day roster? Because you have 53 guys who are on your active roster, but only 45 get activated on game day. So, you have essentially 8 guys who are part of the team but are not allowed to dress and participate. So now do you open up that 53-player roster to allow everybody to be activated on game day? Do you also have an additional practice squad list that's made, or do you extend that list to keep active reserves available? Also, another thing is getting vested, which is getting veteran status so that you can get those post-career benefits. Because you're adding 2 extra regular season games, do you now take down the number of years or number of games played to become a vested player? Because right now it's currently 3.5 years or 3 years, 4 games to become eligible for vested. Now, do you take that down because you're adding 2 additional games and saying, can we bring it down to 2.5 years before a player can get vested to make sure the guys are covered and have benefits available to them once they're done, or if they sustain a career-ending injury? Those are all the issues that arise in that, and that's what we're working out currently.
All right. So how would this lockout affect the free agents?
This actually hurts the free agents the most with this lockout, because usually your free agency period starts March 1st. And as you see right now, we're already in July. It hurts because usually you get in March, you can get into a program, you can work in their postseason / pre-season workout plan to get used to the system, get used to the city that you're going to be in. You have your OTAs or organized team activities, so you actually get to practice the plays, go through the playbook at a slower pace than you would in training camp, just to give you a taste and of what the playbook entails. Give you a chance to actually physically go through plays so that you're not going into camp completely, wet behind the ears and not knowing how the system works, how the jargon is displayed in the huddle, how the system works for that entire team. You take away those OTAs, you take away that workout session to get acclimated to wherever you're going to be, and now the period where you have usually about a month and a half to sign players, you're now shortening that to pretty much when we do get this deal done or we do get the lockout ended, a 2-week framework where you have to sign all of your free agents. And now it's like, well, do you back it up and give them a mini camp? Do you give them an opportunity to learn the system before going into training camp, or do you just throw everybody in training camp? And so guys cannot go out there in a free market and negotiate a salary that's comparable to their play level. Now you're going to see probably in this process of free agency, you're going to see a lot of free agents staying with those teams because you don't have time to develop a young or a new player, and you want to keep the guys who have that experience to make sure that you're as ready as possible for a season with guys who know your system the best. So it's a lot of things by having this lockout that kind of affected our free agent players in that aspect. So, and you see also because of that, lower negotiated contracts because cap space will be at a premium coming into this year if we do get a deal done, because the quote-unquote CBA won't take effect until the following year.
Okay. Wow. So